All right, welcome back to DangIT Prodcast, the show where we talk about video games, anime, manga. My name is Justin,
Mark.
and welcome back, everybody. Mark, actually, I feel like it's been a while since we last spoke on a podcast.
I have just had shit going on.
As it must be. You know what? It's crazy because like that was pretty much how like Phil was like early on when the baby was around, but like that's also the case as well. Also, when you were getting married, that was also a thing. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Right, moving into the apartment. Should be hopefully moved in completely tomorrow, and
Ooh,
also
nice.
tried out a new job. Didn't work out.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah. Hey, listen, at least you're like really putting your foot out there.
Eh, gave it a shot.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any like idea of what you're gonna be doing like going forward from there?
Hope I'm gonna try to find something more chill. The pace is just too fast for me.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
That I'd also like them to give me the hours that are actually on the schedule instead of just giving me 2 extra hours on top of that. Like, excuse me.
Yeah,
This is
that
not right.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems kind of crummy. I'm not gonna lie. Fair enough, but
It's like pardon me. This isn't what this says.
mm-hmm. Otherwise, other than that, how have you been?
I've been all right.
Mm-hmm. I feel
Alive.
it. I'm alive. I could say the same thing here. You would say that like as far as like a just a kind of a recap or just like a reflection on like the month of January. It's been very much so a very long month as far as like our own personal lives. The world is also a thing, and I want to acknowledge that at the very least. That's something. Yeah, it's been a kind of a start of sorts for the month of January of 2025. But we're here. This is the first podcast actually of February, and so here's to some very exciting stuff showing up. One including one Pokemon, and two Monster Hunter.
True, Monster Hunter is this month. I'm looking forward to that.
Albeit it's the last. Why? Hold on. It happens twice. Happens all the time, right? Why are these two things happening at the end of February of all things? Pokemon and Monster Hunter.
Creature collecting is
Creature collecting always happens at the end of the month.
Creature collecting and or creature fighting.
It's crazy. I guess so. Yeah. I feel like there was something else. No, you know what? I'm only thinking of the physical version for Bakeru. That was something that came out last year, but the physical was later announced this month. I was just trying to remember if there was anything else. Oh, you know what? There's another Trails game coming out this month as well. I have not like put any like pre-order like money for that, but that is certainly a thing. Oh, speaking of which, I do have pickups over here. I got a solid 2. Now, I'll go ahead and outline them as long as I can just kind of get my low time code here. I've been trying to be a little bit more proactive in like putting time codes on stuff, just so that when I add the chapters in on YouTube, it's something that's just readily available like as soon as possible. But yeah, here we go. So this pickup that I got right now, they're both Switch. This one actually came from Woot. I've been following like Twitch accounts not Twitch, Twitter/X on just like deals and whatnot. It's how I usually will find like some really cheap pickups, but for this one it was just kind of like a bit of a deduction, but it's also one of those things where I don't think I would ever really see it anywhere else. But it's Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta 2 came out on the Switch in 2018. It's actually an older like pickup, but it was starting to become a little bit harder to find. This one's actually a different like version of it. I think it's kind of like the multi-language one. So yeah, you can actually kind of tell just based on like some of the labelings in the back here, and also the case is like a little bit different too. But this is actually the version that doesn't include the digital copy of Bayonetta 1. Not that I need that. I also think that'd be kind of excessive too. But when Bayonetta 2 originally came out, it was really this bundled with Bayonetta 1 as a digital like code to just download. This is just like the game by itself. And considering the fact that I have Bayonetta 1, 3, and Origins as of like the Black Friday deal pickup last year, this was the only one I was missing. So it was one of those things where it's like, let's just get started with this one. And I actually like put this into the Switch, and it turns out to be the 1.2 version, which I guess is like the finished version of it. So that's actually kind of nice that everything was in the cart. So very nice. And then the other pickup that I got here, is Tales of Grace F Remastered. This game came out 16th of last month, so very nice to have this collection. Like it came out around the same time, if not, yeah, the same date as Donkey Kong, maybe same week.
Didn't the new one just come out like Tales of Grace F, like the remaster or something like that?
Quote unquote new one, yeah. So this is like a new pickup. It was one of those things where it's like I want to like include this on my little like Tales of journey, on top of my like my Trails journey as well. And it just kind of came out like around a good time. I finished up Trails in Sky the Third, and so I usually bounce back and forth between like franchises. So this was just kind of like lined right up, and considering the fact that this is a game that I otherwise thought I would never see whatsoever in my playthrough, because it was just gonna be like on other platforms of like an older generation. The fact that they're going forward with remaking these games is great. So there's what was it? There's like a PC version, there's a PlayStation version, there's a Switch version. I was kind of debating which one to get as far as the physical. But I guess I kind of went with Switch because I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I think it's just depending on like what's your preference for a console. But the game itself should hold itself just quite well, regardless. And I've been playing. I played like the first 3 hours last night on stream, and it's been pretty solid. The game's kind of split up between like two different timelines, same timeline, two different like points in time, where you're like playing as kids, and then like I guess there's like a big time jump, and I don't really know the context of that, but that stuff just kind of happens. Right now, I'm still like playing as a kid, and I thought it was gonna be one of those things where you just play as the kid, just for like story purposes, and then you just jump immediately into like being like an older like dude. But no, they've kind of stuck with it for a little bit. It's almost feeling like a Kingdom Hearts 2 type of like tutorial opening sequence, and you know, maybe something else will happen. But these kids are actually kind of kicking ass. I'm like, bro, like
get his ass.
Like, homie, this kid's like 11 years old, and he literally like stopped an assassination attempt. Like, what's going on? This kid's built different.
Do anything.
Oh, shouts to the chat. How's it going, everybody? Over on Twitch's side, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy right now. I'm already loving the characters, but it's one of those things where it's like this kid shouldn't really be able to do all this stuff. Like, this is kind of insane.
Right.
And then you roll up into their hometown, and they're like, "Oh, Aspel, welcome back. Oh, someone's waiting for you at your manor." I was like, "Your manor? Excuse me?" Oh, you're loaded? I see.
Hey, yo.
Crazy stuff. But the characters and like the story that they're presenting so far has been really interesting. So I'm looking forward to what happens afterwards. So those are the only pickups I got. Thankfully, both of them are actually like a 40 like ish like dollar range stuff. So you could definitely, or at least I totally recommend just getting Tales of Grace's F remastered. And considering the fact that it's like only priced at like $40, it's like, ooh, that's solid. And then of course it can't get cheaper than that, so you can also just wait it out too. But I'm just super happy that they're one to do it. But yeah, that's me giving it its flowers. I have a couple other things going on here, just to kind of give you guys like a loadout of what we're gonna be talking about today. We're gonna be talking about the NSO update. We're gonna be talking about a recent PC port of one of Sony's first parties, and how that reception is going. We're also gonna be talking about Multiversus. Of course, that's the thumbnail. And is there anything else here? I think we're going to be talking a little bit about like these predictions about Switch like getting a direct next or this month. Switch 1, I mean. And then we'll see if we could talk about some anime and manga at the very end. So stay tuned for that. Let's talk about the NSO update. This one will be kind of a brief one. Obviously, if we had Phil here, he'd definitely give you like a better history on like the series. But this is kind of a shadow drop from Nintendo's side. NSO has now a new N64 title, Ridge Racer, which honestly, that's from, was it from Namco? Yeah, it's from Namco. So Ridge Racer is a racing series. I don't think that they have any like new games out currently anymore, but it was one of those series where like, you know, music was like really good. I guess like the controls were pretty tight. I haven't played it myself like this past week. It only just like shadow dropped maybe like a day or so ago. But you know, I'm pretty sure Phil has played that. If he was here, unfortunately he's not. He'd probably give you like better idea of like how it plays. But I think it's one of those things where Ridge Racer had like other like games coming on different platforms. So this is one that was for the N64. Just glad we actually have that, and the fact that NSOs just continues to update. So that's something to expect, like going out further out this year, even with Switch 2 coming out. Um, let's talk about um the PC port of Spider-Man that came out, Spider-Man 2, I should say, because we already had that one like earlier on. But that's been getting a lot of mixed reviews, to be honest, and it's kind of disheartening to hear that because Spider-Man 2 is actually really good, but I guess the PC port is kind of bugged out. But it seems to be kind of a common occurrence when it comes to PlayStation, like porting over, well, PlayStation games first and then porting over to PC later. Seems to be like a common trend because people are referencing like some other like PlayStation games, like Last of Us, for example, Part 1, having some really bad issues with it. And more recently, actually, is Final Fantasy, which I don't know if it's like getting crash reports or anything like that, anything crazy like that, but it isn't really performing up to snuff for a lot of folks. And I've been kind of paying attention to what people have been saying about that, as far as it's kind of like up to like the optimization of the game. Square Enix does want to put like their games on PC, but a lot of them aren't really as good as like the console ports, like along the lines of that. But I also think it might be one of those things where there may not, it doesn't really account for all these different diverse like PC builds that people are running for these games. So I think it's just one of those things where they just kind of have to get a lay of the land, like once it gets like that initial reception, and then they'll just kind of work it out, because it seems like, I think PC gaming is like really good still, but it's definitely one of those things where it's never really ready at launch. Also, yeah, Ibrahim, how's it going? Talk about Forza on PlayStation. I forgot to add that there too. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But I actually want to bounce it over to you, Mark. How you feel about, like, I guess to an extent, like PlayStation games on PC, how that's being received, how well it performs, and well, yeah,
we grew up in the era of exclusives,
this is
and
true.
honestly, as we've gotten older, I think we've all come to realize, well, exclusives can be good for business, for the industry and the community in general. I don't think it's a good thing.
Hmm.
I think that everything going multi-platform is probably better in the long run for the entire gaming community.
I agree with that.
I just think that at the end of the day, that's what's really going to be good for everyone, and that's what's going to make sure we all can play the best games, that the best games out there, is that if, because we could all actually play them, we won't have these paywalls.
That's true. I I think that console exclusivity was, that had to be a thing when it comes to like the big parties. In this case, like we're talking about like Nintendo, Microsoft slash Xbox, and Sony PlayStation, where they have hardware and they have like software that they want to sell and keep themselves like in the market. And I guess like an old saying would probably be like it's, well, I mean, I guess you could still say that even now, like that software would sell the hardware as well, or well, software sells for the company, the respective company, and to put things on like different platforms shouldn't really hurt you in the long run. But I guess when you want to create that culture, especially Nintendo still does it, where it's like you only have this experience on this platform. You only be able to experience Zelda, for example, on like PC. Or sorry, Nintendo.
Like,
I don't know what I'm saying here. Hold on, I'm gonna rewind that.
Though, like, I think the only company that can get away with that still, even after all of this, is Nintendo. I feel like, because they've just always done that. There's never not been a thing for Nintendo. I think
Yeah,
everyone just come to accept that.
probably. It's also like part of like habit too. So the fact that Nintendo has not moved a muscle for that one. What I was trying to say was that you'll only be able to experience like these games on Nintendo hardware legally.
Legally speaking.
Legally speaking. But it's,
Illegally speaking, I'm sure nothing is going to change.
illegally, well, I'm not the person to talk to about that. but you can definitely find someone who would. But the fact is now, like, Xbox is like now really, really woven like its entire like ecosystem like around PC as well. So that's pretty nice for them. They've always been kind of pushing for like multi-platform, even like for their stuff. And
Thank you, Phil.
I think that's probably for the best. A la Forza now on PlayStation. Although that was kind of like a sleeper like release, or at least as far as like the announcement, like that kind of just came out of nowhere. And PlayStation has been like putting stuff on PC, which is still a good thing, but it's also weird too because like it's been riddled with bugs, as so seems. So I think for that, like they got to figure it out. Because I don't really hear much about like Xbox and then the PC ports of those games having issues. Although I haven't really been like listening quite deeply into that, so I guess we'll have to see about that. But it's one of those things where I I guess like it's one of those things where multi-platform is just like the way to go ultimately. I would echo the fact that like when it comes down to it, you should be just a fan of the games itself. Like, and the problem is that Xbox, PlayStation, even Nintendo's not an exception to this. They're gonna do their own thing, and sometimes that doesn't really like match up with what you want. So just do what you got to do as far as like the game that you love and follow it like wherever you go. That's why I was like going over to Tales of Grace F, and I was like, which one should I go for, like Switch or PlayStation? Because I think I can go either way with that one. And it was like, okay, well, I'll support the series no matter what, regardless of the platform. So at that point, it just kind of comes down to like your own personal preference. And you know what? When I was when we were traveling over, whether it be for conventions and whatnot, or in this case, I'm thinking about like the wedding, going like East Coast. The Switch was great. The Switch was fantastic for that. And I did debate about getting like the Steam Deck or bringing the Steam Deck with me, but it was one of those things where like, yeah, Switch is smaller, so I'll just go with that. And I was also playing something on it too, which it was Mario and Luigi at the time. So yeah, so I just kind of went with that, even though I don't find myself these days just like taking the Switch on the go everywhere. It's only when I'm traveling, which is not as like often. But yeah. So at the end of the day, yeah, just support the games and wherever they like show up. But it does suck when you have like ports like Spider-Man, which apparently is crashing a lot and doesn't really cater to a lot of people with different builds. So that's just kind of an unfortunate thing. Ibrahim, real quick, can't wait to pirate some games on my brand new Switch too. Hey, relax.
I respect the honesty.
I respect the grind from day one, from drop.
I just respect the flat out honesty. Honestly,
listen, people do what they want to do. You can't really stop people from doing that. It's oh god, it's like asking people to like just kindly keep your modding for a certain Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to like a pretty respectable level, and someone's like, nah. Full nude mod. It's like, yo, crazy. But I get it. I 100% get it. Now I'm thinking about like that mod for Street Fighter 6 that Night brought up. Someone's getting interviewed about like how well they're doing, and then like their mod pulls up. It's like that's degeneracy right there. Like you can do whatever you want, but like don't bring it to the tournaments or anything like that. That was insane. But okay. So let's get to the main like topic and the chosen thumbnail for this one. As I go ahead and mark this down on the time code here. So you know that game Multiversus, right? It was nominated as one of the best fighting games of 2024. Because I guess it came out in 2024. Funny enough, I think it won Best Fighting Game as a beta game in like 2022 or something like that, 2023, whichever. And well, now fast forward to like I guess yesterday's news where so the new season 5, that's insane. They're already at season 5. That's gonna drop earlier this month, and that's it. Once they're done with that, they plan to and well, once that season's done, They're gonna just have that be like a game that will be, you can something you can play offline. So that is to assume that online stuff will, you know, end at some point too, which means pretty much the discontinuation of the game as far as the support. So Multiversus is now just kind of like staying afloat and will just remain like that for like per, per, perpetually for as long as its entire life. So that's kind of unfortunate because when I played Multiversus, I never played the game when it released. But that was I well like okay, thank you, Mark. What was it? I played the beta. That was it. And like, and I was like, I had fun with that. That was a good time. Never played like the actual like release. You did. How'd you feel about the game when you were like actually playing it like on launch?
It felt like a decent Smash clone.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would probably say the same thing, where it's like, yeah, that's a decent Smash clone. From what I've heard, there's been some weird takes about like how they decide to implement some updated stuff since like the beta stuff. Um, some of it's like not really favored in that extent, but that's aside the point. The fact is that it's a game that had a lot of promise as being like the next Smash, like quote unquote Smash killer, let's say. And now it's kind of at this point where it's not going to get supported anymore. It's donezo. And we've seen a number of like Smash clones in the past. Rivals of Aether is one that comes to mind a lot. The fact is that they're still working on the Rivals of Aether 2, so clearly, the first game like did well, and I have played it quite a bit. That's actually a lot of fun too. But, I think there's still like an area where people are still trying to like make the next Smash Brothers game, but it doesn't I mean, granted, it's hard to live to the hype to that. Fair enough, but it doesn't really end too well for like some or most, while some kind of like stay. So I guess ultimately what I'm trying to say is it is kind of sad because there are still some people who play through Multiverses. Clearly I'm not one of them, but I still respect the fact that Warner Brothers was willing to take the dive for this one. But I guess like one plunder from Warner Brothers after like maybe another one. I feel like there was another thing that they had messed up on, but I know that like the main bag has been why am I blanking on the name of the game? I want to say what it is. It's Mortal Kombat, right? Yeah, it's Mortal Kombat. That's their main bag. I don't know why. I was thinking like, is there another game from like Warner Bros. That they do? But it's like no, it's definitely like them and NetherRealm Studios. Yeah. I might be thinking about like the other NetherRealms games that they've like tried to do in the past. But no, that's their main bag. And like that's been working out like quite well. And I think Multiversus had like quite a bit of polish to it. We were seeing like a lot of gameplay, but I think they've made a lot of different changes like to the full game that maybe didn't stick with a lot of people. If not, there wasn't enough support for it like over the time that it was just like a free to play game. Because you do have to kind of keep that up quite a lot to just make sure that the game stays alive and get a lot of the returns back.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're a live service game, especially.
So I guess like with Multiverses, they really couldn't quite get to a point where people would always like come back to it, even though they were adding like a lot of like licensed characters into it, which in and of itself is something that is really cool and had that power had that potential stay power that like Smash Bros would, where you actually have existing very popular franchises like jump in like for one time stuff, a la Banjo, a la Cloud, or Sora, and then just like a bunch of other like characters. Like Smash Bros is legendary, and how do you like beat that? I don't even know.
I was getting ready to say it's hard to in terms of a collaboration game, it's very hard to top something like Smash.
It's so difficult. You have to really make your own thing. I was gonna bring up the fact that the folks who made Omega Strikers, unfortunately, that was another game that they had to discontinue support, but
had a lot of promise though.
Yeah, but the those folks are actually working on a Smash Brothers like platform fighting game. So I don't know how that's gonna like shape up. We don't really know a lot about it, but I'm hoping for the best. But if it's gonna be a free to play type of thing, then it's kind of like, ooh, walking on some pins and needles. Let's just hope that like all works out for them, because who
I say
knows.
hopefully it'll be good.
So yeah, it's another like free to play type of game that is going under for a little bit, or rather for Multiverses. At least they're going to just have that as a offline type of experience they can enjoy for the rest of its life. But that's tough. But at the very least, it is offline experience. Which kind of reminds me, I did have another pickup. It's kind of like a little side tangent, but it was Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete. I guess they had a whole promotion like at some point where it was like $10 because they discontinued the live service like side of things, and now they just put everything into like one package. That's also a good alternative too. So I'll give props to that. But they had a promotion for it being like $10, like as of I think yesterday, and that was like the deadline. So I went and got like Pocket Camp like on my phone, but yeah, it's tough with free to plays. It's really tough. You have to have like such a great track record, and I'll give flowers to Hoyoverse for this. The fact is that they've had some humble beginnings. I remember like Honkai Impact the Third, and that was even like the very first thing that they've done before, if I'm correct about that. But Genshin was like the next big thing for them, and then that happened. It was really much so a success even to this day, and now they branched off into like 2 other games. One of them I'm like, oh, I can actually like get with this one. And yeah, they just have like a really good track record on that. Also being like pretty free to play friendly as well, but also giving some incentives for just like monetization and just buying things from them. But if you're not them, it's kind of tough. It's kind of rough.
Them, it's kind of tough.
But I mean, like at the same time, like there's some other success stories, maybe not free to plays, but like Balatro is a good example of like something that was very simple, made by essentially one person, and it was a small price tag, and like look where it is, like as of 2024, like it was up there in nominees and everything like that, and super addicting. I think.
I mean, if you want a game that's free to play, that's absolutely just probably smashing through everything, it's probably Marvel Rivals.
Oh, you're right. I don't know why I thought you were going to say Smite. I was like,
Smite 2 just needs time. I'm sure it'll get back up there.
You're so right, though. Marvel Rivals has been. Actually, my brother was talking about that. He was saying that he was, to a further extent as a full-time person, like working and whatnot, but he's addicted to Marvel Rivals as well. I've been seeing people like play through Marvel Rivals like on loop. It's pretty impressive, like what they've done with it. And
fun game. You're also just gonna run into a lot of sweats.
A lot. Dude, when you mention that, I'm thinking like, what if the Switch 2 had Marvel Rivals with the mouse support?
You never know. It just might in the future. We don't know.
I'm just imagining my palms getting all sweaty with that Joy-Con mouse design. I'm like, ugh. Hey, listen, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping for the best on Switch too. So we can talk about that a little bit later. But actually, I don't think there's anything else. Oh, you know what? I want to like wrap up on the Multiversus stuff with an actual statement of theirs. They actually did post it on Twitter/X, but I did like the quickest summary about it. But they were saying that season 5 will serve as the final update to Multiversus beginning February 4th of this year, ending in May 30th, 2025. That might have been a typo.
I wonder who the final characters are they're adding to the game.
After season 5 ends, players will be able to enjoy the game offline for the foreseeable future. So that's their statement.
Basically saying, hey, you can still play the game, don't expect any new shit.
Exactly. Which, I mean, like, all games end up like that. Like Smash Brothers right now, because, with the exception of Mario Kart being like something out of nowhere, we assume that Smash Brothers Ultimate is kind of like done, like that form of the game. And we're not talking about like, as much as you like to speculate, Mark, I'm not jumping into that. But as far as the game, within of itself,
the modders are nuts, dude.
I'm sure modders can do stuff,
They
especially with
are
multiverses.
legitimately just making more characters and giving custom movesets. It's fucking nuts.
One. So yeah, modders can do whatever they want, but as far as like the actual like official support of the game, yeah, a lot of games like end up like that, even if they are like full like price like games and they have like DLC and whatnot. You know, at a certain point that they just kind of stop so they can move on to another project. So I mean, it's just kind of crazy with Smash Brothers in this case because it's just they have like the legacy on them, they have the reputation like behind their backs, and they have just like the craziest updates out there. Craziest updates. Oh, shout out to Ghost Hand. Ghost Hand's in the chat. Dota 2, League of Legends. Still have a bunch of players. There's a myriad of free to play games with an engaging gameplay loop. In all honesty, it's cool that Multiverse is still being kept alive, even if it is offline. And I agree with that. I can echo that. Because if the game was just gone, then that just sucks, you know? It's kind of like, I mean, say what you will about the most like unfortunate victim like in the gaming space. Oh my god, I'm starting to even forget the name too. From PlayStation side. It's a hero shooter. Oh my god. Concord has not only ceased like all services, like it's just done. You don't even get to experience.
Burned.
Concluded. Conclude. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, Concord, unfortunately, not only does it not get the support, it also just will not be available offline, period. Like, just, that's it. Well, that's a wrap. It doesn't even exist anymore. It only has, like the reports on it to be, like, part of history. Otherwise, it's just, like, donezo. And that's really unfortunate. So, yeah, again, I will respect the fact that Multiversus is still available, like, offline stuff. Ghost Hand saying, what a shame. Which is a shame. It could have, like, worked as, like, a horde defense shooter, maybe. Fair enough. I think they could have like done something where it's like one last final update. You know, you can still play like locally or anything like that. But that's pretty much it. But here's this like little mode, which reminds me, dude. Yeah, Fortnite, like the origins of Fortnite, how that was just gonna be its own little thing, and then it decided to like just drop like a battle royale like on top of that, and then that
history was forever changed.
Truly. They have not stopped. They have not stopped since then. And, you know, I think a lot of developers kind of follow that path in hopes to find success there too, because why wouldn't you, you know? And you kind of see that in the form of other games. I think Marvel Rivals, for example, is an example of like, you know, trying to do something similar to like Overwatch in that case. And, you know, it's doing very well right now. And then you have...
It is over who?
Over who? I'm sorry, what were we talking about? And then, you know, we also have trying to think of another success one. Something, well, I mean, I guess looking on the other side, like Concord unfortunately tries to mimic like other hero shooters, and that's not really doing too well. And you could say that it's because of the paywall of $40. But one would also offset that with the fact that it was going to support updates like just completely free of charge, like going forward. So that was definitely an approach that they wanted to do. It just didn't really pan out the same way because you're starting off with a brand new IP, and one would say that like Marvel it leverages a lot of the Marvel characters to really bring in the popularity, which, I mean, if anyone looks at Invisible Woman, then yeah, you know, you get it. Gross. Nah, dude, I saw someone's clip.
They knew what they were doing.
I know you're tired. But God, real quick tangent. I remember seeing this guy on TikTok, or just, yeah, it was TikTok, and it was just his girlfriend getting out of the car. He was just waiting patiently. She looks back at him, immediately goes for that seat. I'm like, oh, bro, no. Oh my God, does Gwen sit there? Like, stop.
Did Gwen sit there?
So gross.
To be fair, they knew exactly what the fuck they were doing.
Mm. Oh yeah, that
When I
kind
saw
of.
Invisible,
Oh yeah, yeah.
especially in that one skin, the one fucking skin that Invisible Man has, everyone's just like, yeah.
It's crazy. It's insane. Oh, and y'all say that ZZZ is the Gooner game.
Oh, just wait.
Oh,
Check this shit out.
check this out. Oh man, dude. I will say I have like a much more better appreciation for like side live service games if you're following it like very closely. Like right now ZZZ is going through like a lot of like story updates and stuff like that, adding more to the characters and whatnot, and me playing through that kind of actively as best as I can anyway. I've definitely been appreciating it, even if it's something where it's like new people really won't be able to experience that. If you're actively following it, you feel like you're rewarded for doing such a thing. But there should probably be some circumstance where like we should be able to experience everything like all at once. Although I think, you know, ZZZ might be like different. They might archive their stuff and you'll play it later. But yeah, I see the appeal of like live service games. It's just it's kind of tough, you know, like in the long run. You have to keep it up. But yeah, that's pretty much everything as far as like multiverses talks. Otherwise, I think I kind of wanted to talk about this. If anything, kind of briefly. As I just kind of keep track of the time here. Just want to put the time code right here on this one. About things coming up for this month of like February. Obviously, we've been talking like behind like the curtains, Mark, about what might be happening in the month of like February, mainly in the back. Well, actually, no, we talked about it earlier. About how we have Pokemon Day, and that's usually accompanied with a Pokemon Presents. And then we also have the release of like a pretty high anticipated game, especially on my part, Monster Hunter as well. So there's that. I've also, I mean, Phil also kind of brought this to my attention as well. The possibilities of a Nintendo Direct, Switch One focused Direct, happening, which I was not really sure about, considering that we just got the announcement of recently of Switch 2 and everything like that.
I mean, I was fairly certain we were just done with everything Switch One now already.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But you know, I wonder because it could be one of those things where, like, you know, similar to how PlayStation 4 still is making games and whatnot, but it might be one of those things where Switch One will still be relatively supported because, you know, I can't really knock them for wanting to continue like software sales like on that front.
I mean, yeah, but it's like they'll still make the games, but I mean, I don't know if they'll still make the console.
Yeah, they'll definitely not make new iterations of like the Switch 1. They'll definitely focus Switch 2 going forward, but I think they're going to try to ease people into the Switch 2 as well because unfortunately, well, not really unfortunately, the thing is that people won't really just immediately drop whatever they have and jump into the next thing. Everyone's different on that front. Oh,
a lot of people usually do.
well, a lot of people that we know who are very vocal about that, I would say. They would, I mean, myself included, sure, but you know, I think everyone's kind of different, and those who speak the loudest will tell you, like, this is I'm dropping everything I got so I can show everything to you. That type of mentality, but you know, I think as far as like trying to cater to like a large audience, Nintendo would want to ensure that, you know, Nintendo Switch still has like a life ahead of itself. Still, it's just that they are transitioning over to the Switch 2 at some point, maybe sooner rather than later, but it's still a transition nevertheless. But I have no idea what they would do for a Switch 1 Direct, but there's been some talks about I mean, there's just rumors, so like grain of salt on that one. But then again, rumors have also been led true if you've seen the Switch 2 reveal. So I'm kind of not sure about what Switch 2 might actually have. Or, sorry, Switch 1 Direct might actually have. All I hear is that it might be happening this week, which I have no idea what again, no idea what they want to do for that. They've already Pokemon Legends EA will probably be off the table for Nintendo, and that's completely what Pokemon wants to do with it. But other than that, Metroid Prime 4 and beyond might be, you know, that might be its own thing. That might be something that they want to like bring into this like hypothetical Switch Direct. But as far as anything else, it's hard to really say unless they're like, oh, well, we also have stuff coming out. Well, that might. Oh, now I'm contradicting myself because I feel like that affects sales for Switch 2 as well. If they were to say like, oh, like releasing in April, May, and June, we have, well, actually, if Switch 2 comes out in June, maybe not so much, but coming out April, May, and June, we have like a couple other games that we have like prepped up for you. So they can still do that. They can still go into their library and just come up with a couple of remasters and whatnot, other ports. But as far as new games, probably not. They might actually save that for Switch 2 stuff, but or have like dual releases maybe. I guess, well, backwards compatibility ensured. Yeah. Be one of those things where maybe they'll just like bring up like the direct and say like we're focusing on Switch 1, but all these will be backwards compatible with Switch 2. So, fair enough. And maybe it could be one of those things where it would be a performance boost. I'm still kind of hoping for that. We don't actually have like official details on that until April. Which, speaking of, quick tangent aside, we didn't get in. We didn't get into April stuff. It's rough. This past week has been like people talking about like whether they got in or like got out. I've heard a lot majority of folks not getting in, and I guess that's also fair because it's pretty limited at that point. Even Jeff Keighley, has anyone seen that? Jeff Keighley actually posted on like Twitter/X. He didn't actually get in as like just a regular person. The text was, "Have a rotten day," but then it got deleted. And I was thinking like either he got canceled for that, or he just realized that was a mistake and deleted that, or someone reached out to him and got him a spot. I was like, bro. I mean, that's actually kind of fair because he is kind of like a face of like video games going forward. So it would be pretty good if he had some exposure there, but it really felt like Nintendo didn't care. I don't even know who you are, they said. And Jeff was like, you will. Or someone else said like, no, wait, we could help him. We could help him. Didn't really think about that. So Jeff might have an insight to it, but other people, it's so funny. I'm following a personality there, Aru. She got in, and some other people are not getting in. It's like there's some like well-known folks who are, and no disrespect to Aru on this one, but I was just going with the train of thought of that. There's a lot of people who do like a lot of like Switch coverage and feel like they would be the ones to kind of give you like the quote-unquote official like coverage on everything. And Aru's kind of like more of the personality who will like jump on opportunities, but otherwise she kind of is just well versed in everything else. But has also had some very interesting like takes on the internet, just being herself, which I respect. But it's also kind of one of those things where like it's just so funny to look in this kind of like scope where she got in, you didn't. Right. So I think it's funny that it is really a random chance because it's an opportunity for a lot of people to experience it anonymously, really. But there's definitely going to be coverage. We're gonna do our best as well, even though we didn't really get in. So we'll see. We'll see things like play out in April, but that's in April, so we don't have to really worry about that. But yeah, that's pretty much it on that one. I guess Mark, you don't really have much as far as like predictions on a Switch 1 Direct if they had one.
Not really, except maybe it's like a final like everyone just saying like bye to the Switch 1, maybe like a
farewell. Oh no. That sounds a little bit more emotional. I don't know if I'm ready for that. So long, farewell. It's like, not the big blue house.
Not the big blue house.
Bye now. It's like, no. I don't know why that got me a little bit more emotional. I was like, oh no. I mean, I'll always see the Switch, but it's like, this hits different.
I think it'd be like because I mean, it would end up being like what, like the final. It'd be the final Switch release.
Yeah, actually, you know what? There would be some supporting things to lead to like there just being more Switch software, even if it's not going to be like part of a Switch Direct. Because Phil's brought this up before. The Metroid Prime trilogy, we only have Prime 1 as a remaster. 2 and 3 are not available whatsoever. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, is that part of Switch 2? Because it really doesn't need to be. It could just be like Switch 1. So they could have this time to like announce that. And then another one that I'd definitely question is Super Mario Galaxy 2. because, and I guess also the software for Galaxy One and whatnot, which was part of the 3D All Stars bundle. But that was a limited time thing for like a certain anniversary for 1 year, which is long since passed. So they can always bring in software like that one as well as Galaxy 2 and have that as a potential port because that's money. They can do it. I'm dumb enough to buy it. I'll do it. But things like that, I can totally see them trying to like maybe put that somewhere and make use of that as far as like just some activity that's going on for like Nintendo like for that month because they've been pretty consistent on just having something every month. So, keep up that consistency and I can appreciate that. And yeah, I think that's all I have as far as, predictions for a Switch 1 Direct or even like Switch 1 software going into 2025 up until we get like Switch 2 stuff. In that case, I'm really looking forward to seeing like how that shakes up the entire like scope of like the Switch platform or Nintendo platform as a whole. But I think that's it on that one. So I think we'll just leave the rest of the time up to as I get my my time stuff. So here, we can talk about some anime stuff. Hell yeah.
Pog?
Pog. It was 46 on the time on that one, so I was right. So we were jumping on the podcast, and I was kind of caught in the middle of solo leveling, and I will say this as I would typically talk about it, like inconsistency. It's definitely worth the watch. I unfortunately have been privy to a lot of like spoilers to a solo leveling in the form of people trying to recap it in the form of short form content as far as the manhwa. So there's that. But it's because of that I know it's peak. I know it's peak, guys.
Peak.
So definitely give it a watch and see if that like ever changes your mind on that one. Ibrahim, no, don't sleep on solo leveling. You gotta stay tuned for it because it gets nutty like later on.
What is A being a hater?
Perhaps, but if you have different priorities, I won't even force it. Not for you. That's fair. It's just it gets a little
That's
crazy.
fair enough.
Like I understand like the overpowered fantasy can be a little bit much, or it's just not even your cup of tea, or whatever it is. But I think with this one, it does something a little bit different as far as like the world building involving that. So I've been appreciating it for what it is. Otherwise, I probably would have looked at it with a lens of like, oh well, it's still fun. I think a lot of the development of the anime has been really impressive. So this recent episode 17 is probably one good example of it, where it's like, when you look at things outside of the perspective of like Jinwoo, who is like obviously like he is the OP person here. The fact is like you have all these like other stronger like well not stronger, but they're strong characters, and I think this episode's a good reminder of that, where it's like they're running their own thing, even if like Jinwoo's on a whole different class now. The fact is that these guys are like pretty legit, even if like enemies are starting to get way stronger than them going forward. But I was like kind of in the middle of it, so I didn't get to see the end of that episode, but I've been kind of keeping up consistently. But I will say though, I've been actually using Netflix a little bit to catch up on Sakamoto Days. That's kind of like
I've been wanting to watch it as well because I saw some clips of those. Like I've been meaning to watch it again. I just haven't gotten to it.
yeah. That's kind of similar in how overpowered the main character is, but it definitely takes
so
a different
funny.
approach. It's much more
It's so
laid
funny,
back on
but
it.
it could be funny and it can also just be like holy fucking shit.
It's really good in like the animation, but I also have been growing on like all the different like supporting casts, so definitely worth the watch on that one too. I've been needing to get around to watching like the latest Castlevania. I've not gone around to it. But I did see like this cool moment with Richter, so I was like, I gotta really commit, like, convince myself to like sit down and watch that. There's a lot. Let me see. I think there's some other anime I've been like picking up on too. Oh, something on the other side of the like spectrum of things, like action versus something a little bit more laid back. Let me see if I can get the actual like name for it here. It's It's Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf. It is.
Uh,
It's kind of the It's kind of weird. I was like, is it isekai? It's kind of reverse as well. It kind of like sits in between, where it's like a kid who has been having these dreams, very vivid dreams, and ever since he's been like growing up and now he's like a full-fledged adult, he's been having these dreams of jumping into a different world and just doing things on the side there. They're both parallel, and at some point joins up with like an elf girl on like the dream side and brings her over to his world, and it's just about like having her get acclimated to that world while they both together jump back into the other world and do fantasy stuff. So they try to do a balance between those two, and it's kind of interesting where they're going with that. They're only up to like episode 4 right now, but it's pretty nice. And then
oh yeah, I've seen a couple of like reverse isekais in the sense of like them coming to the world.
mhm. I do want to shout out this one as well. This one's been an interesting watch. I don't know how I feel about it. It's a light novel title, so bear with me. I left my A rank party to help my former students reach the dungeon depths. Very interesting like sound design that they're going with, as far as like I guess the music's in score. It's kind of more dubstepy. It's a little bit more EDM kinda. I will say the opening kind of takes you for a surprise. It's a lot more like lukewarm. It's kind of just laid back on that, and I don't know how I feel about that, but I just wanted to give it a shout out. The premise on this one is the fact that, well, the interesting thing about this fantasy world, it's not any isekai whatsoever. It's just all fantasy. The way that like the guild works with this one is that they actually have like recording and live stream type of like services, and it's exactly that. It's exactly live streaming as you would expect it, where you can actually like tune in to people's live streams as they go through dungeons, and they serve as both records of like what's going on in that area, but also just kind of keep up with like what particular parties are doing, kind of in the scope of like a popularity type of thing. So I'm pretty early on with that one. It's also one of the latest ones, so say 2 for that one. That's kind of an interesting one. But I think that's all I've been really keeping up with as far as like I guess I should also talk about the Guild Receptionist one. That's an interesting
Oh,
one.
the guild receptionist one's very funny.
It's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Like it does scratch like a level of mystery that I always like want in a show. I think having like an air of mystery in like your narrative always like pulls me in, always keeps you like wondering what's going on, and I think it's been balancing a good like form of that, but also just like anyway, I'm just focusing on like the day-to-day type of thing. Obviously, I've talked about it before. Our main like girl, she's just a guild receptionist. She wants to keep that job, but she also can literally destroy folks and like monsters and whatnot if she needs to. And this latest episode was definitely kind of like pushing like the boundaries there, but they somehow keep it episodic. It's kind of crazy. Where it's like it's just still like maintaining that. So I wonder like where it's gonna go from there. How involved is she really gonna be? Because clearly she had to really push herself like this past episode. But this is episode 4, so we'll see how things like pan out. I don't know if it's gonna be running the classic 12 like episode runtime, but we'll see. There's like there's a bunch of other shows as well, but I think that's everything. I think that's everything on my end. So, Mark, if there's anything else that you've been tuning into, forgot Doctor Stone, of course, the goat.
The final season of Doctor Stone's coming in. This is true.
Yeah, this is the final season, and it's just I always look back on that type of show. It's so crazy, like where things have like gone from like the first episode up to now, and they added a whole other thing to it. But it's spoiler stuff, so I can't really talk about it. But we'll see about that. Oh, you know what?
It's a really good few couple arcs in the last season.
This is true. Like I've loved the progression for the series. It feels like
Absolutely,
it feels so different from like the typical shonen show.
for sure.
Yeah, I think you can definitely tell that based on like the focus of characters. Like obviously, like season 1, you had like the main core 3, and then like Tsukasa being like the main enemy. But now like things have changed, and like the dynamics just kind of like different. I think it's a good different, but it is different.
And then of course and of course you have all these last few villains. I'm very curious to see how you're gonna like all of them.
Yeah, so far, they already have like one like, well, they have like the main villain, but also the supporting cast of that villain side. So it's interesting so far to see. I'm just
Hmm.
kind of seeing how like things get unraveled, especially when only certain characters are involved here and they have to relay information and everything. But yeah, Doctor Stone, that's still a very strong like contender. Um, Red Ranger's a good one. I've been digging Red Ranger. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, is it? I didn't hear it's actually out now.
Yeah. So, uh, it's up to episode 3 right now, and
Okay, I'm not too far behind. I've been waiting for the announcement that it was actually out. I didn't realize it was finally out now.
so for those who are unacquainted with this one, um, Red Ranger just kind of follows the story of like a generic like Power Rangers like setup, all
It's
themed
so
around
funny.
bonds and friendship. So much so, like all the different moves and abilities that they got are all titled after like friendship and bonds and whatnot. Um,
Seeing people from this fantasy world react to a Power Ranger, bro, it's the funniest
it's
shit.
great. It's great. So obviously Red Ranger, our main lead here, he fights the big bad, and in the midst
Call
of
him
that,
Red for short.
Red for short, he gets transported to another world. A good amount of time passes, and he builds up a reputation for himself. Um, the right witch girl like gets involved here and essentially wants to study him up and also like help him out here and there. There's a bit of a love interest, but like between the two, if not one sided right now. But it's one of those things that carries the plot forward, and they're just trying to like do their best, find ways to bring Red back home if it's possible. But it's otherwise just Red Ranger in like a fantasy world.
The manga is actually good. Like it's actually really good. Like I can't even lie.
Mm.
Like the manga is like I'm not gonna say it's like a masterpiece, but it is good.
Okay. I'm looking forward to like seeing more of the episodes, but I also might dabble into like the manga if this one discontinues for a little bit. If not, just for the usual like season 2 development. But right
And of
now,
course, I also
uh,
love that every time he transforms, there's an explosion. They're like, "Why is everything exploding?"
yeah, you know what? There's not a lot of episodes. There's not a lot of shows that do this for me, but there's actually like some favorite episodes of mine, like so far, which was like honestly, it had to been yeah, it has to be episode 2 and 3 so far, because it was like episode 2 is comprises of not to really do any spoilers or anything like that, but they do a lot of flashbacks and like obvious like ranger tropes and everything like that. And one of them is the explosion bit where you pose at the end, and I love that bit about it.
I know.
And then episode 3 is what seems to be like the biggest rival for Red, and you it's like, oh, here we go, I got my ultimate move here, and Red's like, oh, I like that, here, let me go all out here too. And our girl's like, wait, you don't mean he brings out the
Wait, you know what
he brings out the Mechazord.
Yeah,
And
he
then
brings out the Megazord.
bro's absolutely flabbergasted on the other end. He's like, homie, what what is
He
this?
said, "What the fuck is that?"
But I also love how he ends the battle. It's great.
They're just like, "What the fuck is that?" It's just so huge.
So that was a great moment. I love that. So I'm looking forward to seeing some more. But I think the way they ended up with the cliffhanger, I'm actually really curious to see how they deal with the next like big bad.
Like it's gonna get I need to start watching it. I need to start watching it already because I've been reading it. Like I'm caught up on the manga. I just want to watch it now
Oh,
as well.
okay, gotcha. And you know what? Shame on me. I should have brought this up. Shankolog Frontier. That it's still going.
I know. I was watching the first part of the second season, then other shit started happening, and now I've fallen behind. But I need to catch up on it.
It's dude, dude.
It's so good.
I love that they're kind of going at their own pace for this game, or well, I say game, but it's also the show. But yeah, I'm
Banger
yeah,
openings, really good fights.
yeah, solid fights, and honestly, like the way that they kind of like keep like stakes up pretty high, despite it just all being within the confines of a video game, so there isn't really any like actual stakes whatsoever. But well, with the exception of some NPCs dying for real, sure. But other than that, it's like yeah, I've been really digging the show. Episode 2, well, the latest episode's been kind of more of a in between of things, but I kind of appreciate what they were trying to do with that. It's nice to get a little bit of a scope on some of the other cast of characters, because otherwise we usually will just stick with like our main like core character. But kind of interested in seeing how things progress, because the openings kind of give you like a telling of what's going to happen. But then like
Right.
once all the characters show up, then the opening changes, and it's like, wait, so what are we dealing with now? And you see a brand new
Like,
cast, and you're like, oh my god.
yep, bringing in a whole new cast to help with our main cast, and like we're like, wow, this cast is getting a lot bigger.
It's getting way bigger now. I feel the same way about
Bro.
Doctor Stone, but they somehow kind of like juggle that.
Oh yeah, like they make it work.
Yeah, but I've been digging it. Like it's something where, oddly enough, if it was just about hunting down like the wolf, then fair enough. But
Oh yeah,
circumstances
like
happen.
a gun.
Yeah, but they're kind of shifting the focus here and there, as you would if you're playing like a game like this. But it's always like something I'm always never really expecting what's to happen next, and I've been kind of enjoying that side of it.
Oh yeah, like so, especially with Sunraku as the protagonist. I will say obviously he's like any other gamer. Like he's like he wants to get the good shit. Like he wants the challenge.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's like even when he's not being a shit, it's like he can actually be a decent person, and he can actually like like
Hmm.
have these moments to himself like of like self realization and learning and stuff like that.
That is also really cool. He's like a token character who like literally lives off of this, and he has just like adeptedness versus other folks of like exceeding beyond expectations. Like honestly, one just to kind of take it out of context, one of them really says in comments to him like, well, maybe not him directly, but says that like it's only been like a month that he's been like in this game, and he's reached like
He's
this.
already
He's already like
eh,
dealt. He's got himself involved in some of these like nearly impossible tasks that no one's ever really done in the course of like the year that the game in the show has been made. So it
and
really
that is
shows
not
for that.
that's not necessarily because he's a god gamer. It's because he loves playing games that are glitchy as fuck.
Yeah, so he's one who can see a lot of like loopholes here and there and really exploits them like as he typically would. That's how he typically would like tackle a lot of these games. But even then, like, and the fact that he knows like just how to grind out for things, to have those
Like,
moments
he
of
like he is
setback, and
he's
he's like,
just
oh yeah,
like
that's right.
he is good at games, but it's not like a Kirito situation.
Yeah, it's not a Kirito situation where this feels like I don't know, sure. Like maybe like for his character it feels more authentic for Sunraku. But there's also moments where like there is weakness there. There's also like well, yeah, weakness, I'll just say. But he understands that, he can recognize that, he can kind of like flip that around and just
It's
like
also very
mhm.
it's also got a lot of funny moments in that series.
There's a lot of funny moments in the series for sure. It's
The
it's
opening alone,
mhm.
the opening of the very first episode.
It's good. It kind of does like a really good balance of like having some really badass fights, but also just like not taking itself too seriously because it is just a game.
I mean, yeah, like the like a gunfight, sick.
It was yeah, it was really sick.
Then of course the with Weatherman.
That was also a really good moment too. Like there's a lot of like really like standout moments in the show already, and the power scaling that game, or I keep saying game, but the show in the game is also very interesting too. Obviously, we had Sunroku
Yeah,
kind of
for
like
sure.
starting things out, but now he's at a point where like the the big threats, quote unquote, are really just like these like hidden boss ones to deal with. So much so that anything else you don't really get coverage on them these
Yep.
days.
Oh, absolutely not.
So yeah, like Weathermon, like a gong, and I guess like this foreshadowed whale, like those are gonna be like the big stakes going forward. And I wonder how they're gonna keep that momentum going. I mean, granted, there's like seven of those things, but like, yeah,
The Seven Colossi.
yeah. So yeah, I'm really curious how like he grows as a character, but also like I guess how that game itself is going to like develop as a result. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
because
the thing.
the game, like the entire world. moves forward once one of the seven colossi is beat.
Yeah, and I guess that's an interesting take on like how they want to progress like the story like that, because even now like you get glimpses of the devs actually like seeing this in response. Now they're not
And they're just
actively
they're just so mad.
they're kind of pissed off, but they're also like not gonna be like one of those like quote unquote villains that keep tracks of like the progression of like this one protagonist. At least not yet, right? But they notice it as like, oh, huh, interesting. Okay.
They're like, how did they're like, no one's beaten them before. What the fuck's going on? I made this boss super fucking hard.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, needless to say, we have a lot to talk about, like Shangri-La Frontiers and like all the different like levels there. And the funny thing is that they also have like their own level up system. Obviously, I wish I could like kind of like really like tinker with that and just see like exactly what's going on. But I'll leave it to Sunrocker to do the explanations for the most part.
And bro, we have 4 episodes left of Daima, and I'm gonna tell you right
Oh,
now, if they include in loving memory of Toriyama at the last episode, I am going to be in shambles.
how are you feeling with Daima so far? Talking to
I've enjoyed it.
someone, okay. Because I found a spot where I was like kind of uninterested, and I just kind of like fell off. I just
It's
grew.
got some. It's got some parts that naturally, like, say, if someone was, I've seen literally everything. I've
Mm,
seen the OG Dragon Ball. I've seen Z. I've seen Super. I've seen GT. I've seen Dragon Ball in all of its flavors.
mm,
But I can understand if someone who came in from Z specifically was off put a little bit by Daima because Daima also has a very original Dragon Ball feel.
mm. Okay, okay. I can get a feel for that. Yeah, Dragon Ball is kind of its own like vibe, and I can appreciate for it. And Daima is kind of like a blend of that.
Daima is like a blend of the OG and Z in a sense because it's got
Hmm.
the adventure and some comedy of the OG, but some of the fights are very clean and very well done, like in Z.
I see. Because for
Like,
me,
I don't know what
mm,
episode you left off on exactly.
let me see. I can actually pull it up right now. I just got interested in this link about Attack on Titan: The Last Attack, which is kind of redundant name, but you know, episode
Man,
7, like near end of episode 7. I just kind of like stopped it there. I think I was gonna finish up
wait,
the.
isn't that right before he fights Tamagami number 3?
Yeah, it was. I just
Bro, that episode is so gas.
I'm pretty sure it is, but I think there was just a pacing thing with episode 7. I was like, and there was also a bunch of other stuff coming up too. So I mean, it's just one of those things where like I can catch up, but it's like, do I want to? Just after what I've been
It's
like
like,
watching so far.
that's understandable, but the Tamagami number 3 fight is so good.
I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can push myself through it. Sometimes it can just be based off feeling.
But
Otherwise,
bro,
yeah,
like I said, if I swear, if they put, I have a feeling they probably are. If they put in loving memory of Toriyama at the end of Daima, I am gonna be in shambles.
they gotta like they kind of have to at this point because you know who knows when the next like Dragon Ball like anime is gonna be like out there.
I do know that Toyotaro is coming out with a Dragon Ball one shot sometime soon.
Okay.
He's coming out with a one shot one sometime soon in the future. I'm not exactly sure the exact date, but I do know it's coming.
Gotcha.
I know he's gonna continue Super at some point.
Yep, but I guess you know what? I won't even rush them on that one. That's something you gotta take like really good care of.
Of course, he's got to take. Of course, he's a Dragon Ball fan just the same as all of us. And Toriyama was his teacher. He was his mentor.
Hmm.
They made Super together. So of course he's probably going to handle it with great care and try to do his teacher proud.
Yeah. Let's see. I think that's everything I have to bring up as far as like anime stuff. Is there anything else you would like to bring up, Mark, before we go ahead and wrap up?
The Vigilantes is good.
Oh, wait. Did that come out, or is that just kind of like announcing it? Here's some like game.
Just
Here's some
just
trailers.
the
Okay,
trailers.
okay, okay.
The trailers. Like
Because
I'll just say I don't think we've talked about that on here yet.
true that we have not talked about Vigilantes as an anime. Good timing on that one. That's actually really good timing.
Because Vigilantes, we were always wondering when that was actually going to finally get animated, and I guess now that My Hero is coming to an end, they said, you know what, now is the time.
Now it's better timing than any, honestly. Especially for that one chapter at the end of My Hero, where you see like one of those returning characters. You're like, oh wait, I know that guy. I know that homie. I know that's not the homie.
Yeah, when you get to see you get to see the main character. You see the main character of Vigilantes.
Vigilantes
I
show
know his
up.
name.
The
I know his
crawler.
name. The Crow.
The,
I knew his actual name, but I just forget it right now.
the crawler.
The Crow.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how that gets adapted.
Right, it looks good. Like the animation quality looks great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it still feels kind of separate as in art style from My Hero, that's a good take.
Oh yeah, like you can tell it's My Hero, but you can also tell like they are going for a bit of a distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess you could say like the way that Vigilantes is a bit. It can be a little bit gritty.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I was getting the idea of too.
Clean, but also gritty.
Simple but gritty is the way that you.
We feel tonight.
It's hard to catch these. What?
Hold me.
Oh man, I remember. I remember I brought that energy into the universe of like, what if the fourth Xbox thing that they would present in January was going to be Kingdom Hearts?
Could you imagine?
That would be insane work. Hey, listen, Square was willing to play ball, but I guess it had to be something brand new. So, Ninja Gaiden 4, I'll take that. In fact, I accept it.
You're saying Ninja Gaiden 4? That's a hype reveal.
That's
Honestly.
hype as hell, dude.
Ninja Gaiden's a very well-known game series.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Last thing before I go ahead and call, but I was playing Ninja Gaiden 1 Black. Just playing through like that first chapter. And it was actually one of those crazy experiences where I know I talked to Phil about it, but I obviously knew that this game was going to be kind of hard for sure, but I didn't realize like how hard it could make itself be. Obviously, you know, you're fighting one against many people sometimes, and you take some damage here and there, and unless you like pay attention to your healing, you'll die, and then if you haven't saved, you're gonna wind up in like the very beginning of the level, and you're like, oh, it's kind of intense like this.
Wait, what difficulty are you playing on?
There is no difficulty. Well, actually, I think it's normal. It should be normal, but still kind of like tough as like if it was just a normal difficulty.
I mean, it can be. It can be a little hard for sure if you're not used to playing the games. Like when you start playing through them a bit, you start to get a feel for it. But I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been getting kind of used to it. It was one of those things where like I fought the boss, I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to heal and everything, so that's why. And then some crazy stuff happened to it where it was like, okay, well, I'm figuring out how the boss moves and whatnot, so I know how to like work it out, but I realized that like I could hold down like the Y button for like a cool like charge up attack. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. What if I landed on the boss dude? But it's kind of hard to hit. And
exactly.
I kid you not, there was a moment where like he was gonna do his charge attack as well as I was doing mine, and I was like, oh god, this is not gonna really work out, will it? But it actually like connects. We both do like a whole like transitional exchange thing, and I was like, oh, that's sick.
You were like, that was fucking dope.
And before I actually finished them off, like we hit like attack at the same time and did like the clashing effect. I was like, oh wait.
You were like, oh.
And then I beat him, but then before like doing any finishing thing, we stop and then we bow to each other. I was like, oh he's chill like that. Okay. I mean, I only killed like several people on the way here, but you know. But yeah, so I'm just kind of learning about Ryu's like story going forward. So I guess his village is under attack.
Yeah, like I think you're playing Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, I believe is what it is.
Well, this is Ninja Gaiden 1, but I will eventually get to Gaiden 2 Black.
As you're saying, I know Gaiden 2. Is there one black? I thought the only black one they made was Ninja Gaiden 2.
No, it's actually on Xbox right now. Ninja Gaiden like black. But yeah, it was part of the sale, so I got it for like $5. So I was like, okay, let's see what's all about. And I was like, oh man, dude. First of all, it kind of holds up. I mean,
I gotta look at this and make sure that I am not tripping right now.
no. It's well, I mean, yeah. There's Gaiden 2 Black, which just now got like announced and everything like that. But there is like an original one, that has own like black version on in addition to like the Sigma series, right? Um,
Is there?
yep. And I think you can only play it on Xbox. So yeah. So
Ninja Gaiden. Black. Let me see. Ninja.
it's there.
I'm looking.
Also, it's still
I
$5.
don't see it.
Are you? No, I literally typed it up right now. Listen, you know, I could show you off podcast. Like
Okay,
right.
so you're gonna have to, because right now I am like, where the fuck is it?
Okay, yeah, I'll show you when we wrap up here. So, all right, guys, we'll go ahead, clear things from here, and let y'all go into the weekend or whenever you watch this. You know, doing your own thing. So, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in for this episode of DangIT Prodcast. It's been episode 533. My name is Justin,
Mug.
and thanks for watching, everybody. #bye, everybody.